Hey everybody, how's it going? Slow Life Plays coming back at you with another deck tech here. So this is Hazezon, Shaper of Sand. I know he's been out for a minute, but I really just enjoy his company. He's a good dude. You know, deserts are fun, especially with Thunder Junction. Got a lot of desert support. I've played it on and off. It's just an interesting style and an interesting take on lands. You know, I'm not a huge lands person, but Hazezon really just seemed interesting to me. So before I jump into it too much, I want to remind everybody, comment, like, subscribe if you like me that much. But outside of that, we'll just jump into what Hazezon's doing and why he's so cool. So Hazezon, for just one red, one green, one white, he has Desert Walk, which you do have to, just tell your opponents, if you play a desert, just let me know. I mean, that seems fair. Most people are cool with that. But you may play deserts from your graveyard. Whenever a desert ETBs, you create two 1/1 red, green, and white sand warrior tokens. So, super good. Lots of buffs. We go pretty wide. We have a lot of synergies. You'll see. Getting into removal, right? So we have Stroke of Midnight, Beast Within, Generous Gift, and I also run Annie Joins Up because I like the idea of just, anytime a triggered ability of a legendary, Hazezon triggers, you do it again, so you just make more tokens. It does an additional time, which just super value here. And then it comes in as a 5 damage single target removal spell to target creature or planeswalker. So it's very, very good. And then we run Blasphemous Act. Sometimes you just gotta wipe the whole slate. Getting into card draw, we're making lots of tokens, so Rumor Gatherer makes a lot of sense. We're making 1/1s, so we run Skull Clamp because we are that kind of dude. Isle of Oblivion, if you're making tokens on this regularity, I think Isle of Oblivion is a great add. You can just draw cards, super good. Brass's Tunnel Grinder. I like this because I like to be able to pitch my hand and then have deserts in the graveyard to then just play with Hazezon. It's pretty good to just, get a ton of card advantage, and maybe you pitch 2 deserts and it just gives you more flexibility to get those in the graveyard and get that train moving. And that's what Brass's Tunnel Grinder does. It lets you draw a card after pitching however many cards. So these are some token synergy cards. We got this one, attacking tokens have double strike, crazy strong in this. And then whenever one or more tokens you control attack a player, you exile the top card of your library, and then during any turn that you've attacked with a token, you can play that card. So just card advantage. Really good. And the double strike is just so strong. This uncommon cat, insane. I mean, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Cool. That's our most vulnerable time, I think, is during the combat step. That's when people are trying to remove your stuff. That's when they're waiting to interact, kill your lord, but they got to do that preemptively if they want to interact with you because of this. And then if that wasn't enough, he draws you cards. Whenever one or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, we run a lot of buffs. So, really, really good. I love this card. Spelunking. This card is so good in deserts because we have so many deserts that come into play tapped. So when it ETBs, you draw a card, which is cool, and then you may put a land from your hand to play. And we do have, I think, 1 cave, so that's cool. Could happen, but it's really in here because lands ETB untapped, which is so good. Same reason we're running our Amulet of Vigor. Just whenever a permanent ETBs under your control, untap it. Super strong. Birds of Paradise is our only real dork. The rest of these are going to be going to fetch lands. So Dance of the Tumbleweeds can go get a desert, and then it can also make a green elemental later on. We're running Realms Uncharted, so you search for 4 lands with different names. An opponent chooses 2 of them, put them in your graveyard, and the rest in your hand. So we don't care if they go in the graveyard. Doesn't really matter. We can go get our lands back. So super strong for 3 mana. Colossal Rattleworm. This guy, he has flash as long as you control a desert. Really, that's kind of whatever. He's a 6/5, so he's got a little bit more power than his cost. But really, we like the 2 mana, exile him from your graveyard, and you can just go get a desert. Super cool. Map the Frontier, same thing here. You search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or deserts. Put them into play, tapped. Shuffle. We just go get deserts, make sand boys. Pier's Whim. This one, for each player, choose friend or foe. Everyone's going to be a foe. We're going to be friend. We search our library for a land card, so we go get like Field of the Dead or one of our other more powerful lands. And then every foe has to sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. So it's a little bit of removal, and then it's just land ramp for us. Hour of Promise. This one's great, right? I mean, you search your library for 2 land cards, put them into play, and then if you control 3 or more deserts, you make more zombies, more tokens, more problems for your opponent. Open the Way. Crazy card, man. I don't know, like, it's just, it's so strong. I see more and more people playing it, but I am just still such on a hype train. And when it came out, I bought like 4, and I just love it. You know, you can pay, X can't be greater than the number of players in the game, so max is like 6 you can pay into this card. So for 6 mana, you can reveal cards until you get 4 lands, which is just awesome. Any lands, whatever's on the top. Goblin Trenches, pay 2, sack a land. Then you get 2 more tokens. So now we're shifting from getting the lands to eating them, and we're trying to destroy them and sack them and create these loops where we're just sacking lands, making more tokens, making a big board state. This does both of those things, so we can sack a land and make its own tokens, which is great. And then we're running Elvish Reclaimer, super great card. You know, we're running this like out turn 1, and it's just awesome. Then turn 2, you can sack a land, go get a land card, put it into play, just get that desert engine rolling. Love Elvish Reclaimer. Red Rock Sentinel, I don't really know. You know, I pulled this and I was like, this could be good because it lets you sack a land for 2, which is good, and then you draw and create a treasure. It just gives you so much stuff. And he's a 2/4, so to me it seems like he could be good. I haven't really gotten to play him a lot, so I don't know 100% yet. Zuranor, crazy card. Very, very strong. You know, just gain life, sack lands. That's what we want. Nahiri's Lithoforming. This one is sack X lands, and then for each land you sack, you draw a card, and then you can play X lands this turn. You know, this is just really good to get those deserts in your graveyard, and also just, you know, you don't get too behind on land by sacking all these lands. Sylvan Safekeeper, so happy this guy got reprinted. You know, it's super valuable in a deck like this where we're sacking lands, making stuff indestructible, or not indestructible, but shrouded. And you just do this all the time. Just like, all right, I'm going to sack this land. Hazezon has Shroud. And then that turn, you just do your desert nonsense. Champion of Lamholt. This lets your tokens, once they're huge, because you're growing everything, just get big. And then Champion of Lamholt is going to be huge. And then you just start beating people down. Yuma, Proud Protector. You know, you could easily build the deck around Yuma himself, too, where he costs 1 less for each land card in your graveyard. And then when he ETBs or attacks, you can sack a land. If you do, draw a card. And then whenever a desert is put into your graveyard, you make a 4/2 Plant Warrior. So I like that ability. Dune Chanter. So Dune Chanter is a very, very cool dude. So we're running Dune Chanter here for lands you control and lands that you don't control, or lands that aren't in play are deserts, which is super good for a lot of our tutoring abilities, but lands you control have add 1 mana of any color because deserts are pretty stuck. They're sticklers with the type of land types and mana they create. Then you can mill and you can gain life, so that's cool. Outcaster Greenblade. This guy can get massive. So he gets 1/1 for each desert you control, and then when he ETBs, you search your library for a desert, put it in your hand. So here's some buffs and protection. So King Darian, he gives other creatures +1/+1, and then I like him for his sack ability, where you sack him, and then creature tokens you control gain hexproof and indestructible. Super cool. Heroic Intervention, classic, right? Classic stuff. Boros Charm, this is removal when you need it. Permanents you control are indestructible this turn. Creatures you control are getting double strike. It's really cool. Target creature you control gets double strike. But typically we're either removing something problematic, or we are just using it as to protect our board. All right, Orin Frostfang. Attacking creatures have Death Touch. Cool. Our 1/1s become way scarier when they're Death Touch. And then we draw cards. Yes, please. Knight of New Alara. A crazy buff for our 3-color tokens. So each multicolor creature gets +1/+1 for each of its colors. So our 1/1 tokens are now 4/4. That's awesome. That's very, very good for 4 mana. I enjoy that a lot. Gallagreeters. We're making so many tokens with this deck that we get to trigger these abilities all the time. You know, it'll get big from its own +1/+1 ability. You'll gain treasures. You gain 2 life. And then if you have your Amulet of Vigor in play, it makes your treasures not come into play tapped because it untaps permanents. So that's really cool. Not super synergistic in that way. We're not trying to do that, but it's just a neat little value piece that, you know, maybe we do. Jetmir, baby. Crazy guy here. So +1/+0 and Vigilance if you have 3 or more. +1/+0 and Trample if you have a 6 or more. And then typically you're playing this as I'm going to kill everybody this turn, when you can meet the condition of having 9. So you play Jetmir when you already have a big board of tokens. People can't really interact with it. Now they're +3/+0, double strike, trample, vigilant. It's a game ender. War Leader's Call. This one, just a wide buff that whenever a creature ETBs, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So it's another like effect that we really want to be a part of. Just because whenever a creature ETBs, I mean, every time we play a desert, we make 2. So that's 2 damage across the board. That's 6 damage. This one gives +1/+1. Makes tokens whenever a land ETBs. So it's another type of Hazezon effect where it's making 1/1s whenever you have a land ETB. So just another backup effect that also buffs your board state. This card is super, super good. I mean, I don't know why it wasn't in the Hazezon deck already. Like, or I don't know why it was. I can't remember what deck this was in. I think it was in the lands deck from Modern Horizons 3. But it's so desert based. I don't know. It just makes so much sense in this desert build. But either way, when you sack a desert, or whenever a desert card is put in your graveyard from your hand or library, put that card onto the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next end step. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more deserts, make more Sand Warriors, and they gain haste. For 4 mana, that's so good. So good for what we're doing. I mean, there's Hazezon in the art. He's there. Look at him. Look at him. Crazy. Perforos, he's disgusting. That's it. That's all there is. Whenever another creature ETBs, deal 2 damage to everybody. That's crazy. That is 12 damage, right? Yeah, 2, 4, 6, and then twice. Yeah, so because you're dealing 4 damage to everybody every time a desert ETBs. Impact Tremors. It's just another version of the thing that we need to drain everybody. Our tokens are too weak. I got you. Divine Visitation. Flyers, maybe. We got 4/4 White Angels coming in now, and they're vigilant, and we make so many. If there was a card to replace, this is one I've taken in and out. It feels like a win more card. I feel like maybe an overrun effect would be better here, just because then I would just win the game instead of trying to outvalue with 4/4 Flyers, but it's cool, so it stays. Same thing with Anointed Procession. This one just sets you up so good. You play Anointed Procession, if it makes it around the table, then you play like a Impact Tremors or an effect like that, and then you just start churning deserts. Court of Calling. This is if we really need to go get one of our cards, like Jetmir. This works, and we can convoke it. So this and Green Sun Zenith really allow us to go get the pieces that we might need. Typically what I do with Green Sun Zenith, or if I get it in my first turn, is I go and for 2 mana, I go and get the Sylvan guy, who I sack lands. He's so valuable for 1 mana. Or you can go get Sylvan Safekeeper. It's between Sylvan Safekeeper and Elvish Reclaimer. I think I go for Elvish Reclaimer more, but Sylvan Safekeeper could also be very good. Avenger of Zendikar. We're running lands. We're going to do Avenger stuff. This is some test cards I'm running. So I'm running High Noon and Rule of Law. Because I found we don't cast a lot of spells on our turns, but a lot of what we're doing is land shenanigans. So a lot of our stuff is already in play, and we're paying mana, sacking a land, playing the land, getting another land drop, and we're not casting a ton of spells, but everyone else is. So I like these effects, and this one just having the ability to later on pay 5 and deal 5 damage to any target. That's just icing on the cake, man. I think we can benefit very heavily from those types of effects. Corsair Crewfix. This lets us look in, get maybe just have some extra information, get some more value there. Lotus Cobra, baby. This guy is insane. He looks like he's not anything, but if you ever played against a Lotus Cobra in a deck that's doing land shenanigans, the 1 mana quickly escalates into a lot. Ancient Green Warden. You can play lands from your graveyard. It has reach. It's a 5/7, which is awesome. And then if a land entering play causes a triggered ability, you get more triggers. So just so much value off of that. Gotta love the Green Warden boy. Omnath. These are kind of our high-end cards. If our plan with Hazezon got shut down, these are our backup plans. So we got Omnath, Locus of Rage. When ETBs, or whenever a land ETBs, you make a 5/5, and then whenever it or another elemental you control dies, it deals 3 damage to our creature player. So it's expensive, but definitely our most top-end card. These guys are just how we're going to get more lands. So Azusa, Lost But Seeking, you can play 2 more lands. 2 more lands is just awesome. Wayward Swordtooth, you can play another land. Mina and Den, Wildborn, you can play another land. And then you can also return a land you control to its owner's hand and give a creature trample, which can also synergize with us because it's an ETB effect for our deserts and a lot of our landfall stuff, so you can also bounce deserts. Case of the Locked Hothouse, you can just start it off. You can play an additional land. And then when you just have 7 or more lands, It's just so much value, so much information. You can look at the top card anytime, and you can play lands, creatures, enchantments. That's a lot of what we have. Druid class. We get lands. We get life. And then you can play additional lands. And then if you really want to, you can pay 5 and make a super elemental man. Dryad, like I said, this is real. I like this effect because just turning your lands into any color really helps a lot, because deserts, I've been in situations where I could have won or I could have interacted at a key moment, but I tapped my lands wrong just because they're so strict with deserts. You have so many colorless deserts. So cards like this are super valuable, and it lets you play an additional land, which is really good. Burgeoning, you can play an additional land whenever an opponent plays a land. Super good. Now we get into the lands here. So for our lands, we are running a mountain, a plains, and 2 forests. I would like to replace the forest. I didn't get the white-green desert. I don't know why. I swear I probably have one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So we're running those as our basics. Then we're running 3 snow-covered versions of those basics. We're running Bountiful Promenade, Spectator Seating, Spire Garden, Gruul Turf as our multicolor lands here that are not desert-related. Running Balaged Recovery, we're running our Cave, Urza's Cave, can go get us any land card and put it into play. Super good. And then one of our key pieces is Field of the Dead. You know, that's why we're running the Snowlands, that's why we're running a lot of different named lands, is for Field of the Dead. And then we're running Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Jetmir's Garden, and Jungle Shrine. These are our Naya color lands that can get us the colors we need that are not deserts. So now, get into the deserts. We're running Conduit Pylons. You know, this one, when it ETBs, you surveil. It doesn't come in tapped, which is really nice, and then it can filter a color. Survivor's Encampment, same thing here. It doesn't come in tapped, but you have to tap an untapped creature you control, and you can add 1 mana of any color. Painted Bluff, Filter Land, Mirage Mesa. This one lets you choose a color, so that's kind of nice. Running Cactus Preserve. Oh, that's reflective. There we go. Cactus Preserve. ETB's tapped. Add 1 mana of any type of land that you could. It's kind of like a reflecting pool, but it's made of cactuses. It's a cactus pool. And then you can pay 3, and you can make it a green big boy plant. I mean, it only gets 3, right? Greatest mana value of commanders, so not really that useful, but the reflecting pool part as a desert is great. And then we're playing these 2. Like I said, I really would like to get the green-white one. They just come into play tapped, and they deal damage. Running these 2 green ones. Hishap Oasis is, I like these a lot. This line is good because they can sack themselves for some sort of benefit. So these ones can cycle. So definitely they have their own ways of getting to the graveyard, which is super useful for what we're trying to do. This one's really crazy. This one's good. We've got to cycle them, get those dunes going. Ramanap Ruins, damage, and then some recycling with those red lands. And then we get to the fun stuff, right? We get desert. Got to run desert in our desert deck. You know, you just add 1 mana, and then it deals 1 damage to target attacking creature at the end of combat. So, not super flexible, but fun and thematic. Endless Sands is the opposite. This card is very useful. You know, exile target creature you control, and then pay 4, return each creature card exiled with it. Very good at protecting Hazezon from board wipes. Super good. Sandstorm Verge, you know, this can just, target creature can't block. Great, love it. Dunes of the Dead, one of our strongest deserts by far. You know, we want to sack this all the time, because whenever it is put into the graveyard, you make a zombie token, and then you recur it with Hazezon, make tokens through him, and then sack this again, and just keep making tokens. It's tokens on both ends of the chain that we're trying to start. Cradle the Accursed, this is kind of like the worst Dunes of the Dead. It can sack itself and make a zombie, which is cool. Grasping Dunes, this is pretty good in the way that, you know, you can pay 1 and sack it, and you can get rid of pesky 1/1s. You know, you can get rid of stuff like that. Arid Archway, gotta love it. It's a bounce land that's a desert. That's cool. That can really help us. And then Sunscorched Desert, just mainly thematic reason, right? It enters play untapped, which is good, and then just deals 1 damage. It's more of a just like, hey, I'm playing deserts. Eat 1 damage. It's good. So that is Hazezon. I really have a good time playing this deck. It's nifty, it's cool, it's got, you know, it gives you, I always like decks that can give you something weird to look forward to. Like, when, you know, next time you see a desert in the next set coming up, you're like, oh my god, that would be so good in Hazezon. Like, why would you get hyped about deserts if you didn't have a Hazezon deck? So you should get a Hazezon deck, so now you can be hyped on deserts. It's so simple, but it's really fun. I have a great time playing it, and I hope, you know, if you decide to build him, that you'll have a great time too. You can cut a lot of the really expensive stuff like Anointed Procession. You don't need that. You know, a lot of his synergistic pieces just come from, like, Impact Tremors. Maybe go swap out some of the more expensive stuff like Perforos and get something to go get those cheaper cards like Impact Tremors, and just focus around tutoring those with cheaper things like that, and then focus on that desert synergy. It's super fun. I have a great time playing this. So if you like this video, you know, like below, comment something, maybe cool deserts I don't know about, or lands, I don't know. I am not running Scavenger Grounds because we use our graveyard, and it exiles all graveyards. So I would like more graveyard hate, but that is the reason. I just want to get that in there last minute. All right, bye.